Hey guys, welcome to BJJ Collaborative. My name is Danny Savory. Today our special guest is third degree black belt Matt Santos. Big hand for Matt. So guys, real quick, Matt is where I got my blue belt from Matt. I used to train MMA under Matt. Phenomenal jiu-jitsu, great MMA jiu-jitsu, guys. It's a huge pleasure to have him here. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, man.
Thanks, brother.
All right, feet together, hands by your side, bow. All right, any requests? I'm good with chokes, leg locks, most jiu-jitsu I'm pretty decent at. Escapes, anything you want.
Don't be shy, anything you want to see.
I like leg locks.
Leg locks, who else?
I like escapes.
Escapes,
Passes.
escapes.
Spider guard?
Spider guard, how to do it? I'm not good at that. I'm good at stopping it. I'm good at stopping the spider guard, I'm not good at doing it, sorry. Who else had a hand up?
Passes.
Passes,
I'll back up the leg locks.
back up the leg locks. All right, so let's get started. Let's get started. We'll do a leg lock passing scenario. The way I look at it, and even though I'm a leg locker from way back, you got to be a passer. If you can't pass, you cannot threaten leg locks, because I'm always going to be alert if you're trying to pass my guard. I'm always going to be ready for foot locks. If I have to make you convinced that all I'm doing is passing, all right? Or I have to make you convinced that all I'm going to try and do is leg lock you, so I can trigger either response. So we'll do it in both directions. We'll start with a hard pass to a leg lock, and then we'll start with a leg lock to a pass. Does that sound good?
Yes, sir.
All right. Who am I going to use for Uki?
Steve. He loves inverted heel hooks.
Steve?
Yeah.
Matt. Nice to meet you. All right. So if I want to pass, I've got to put pressure on Steve, right? So I can't just like start going like this and then drop for a leg lock and think I'm going to catch him. So I've got to start my passing. I've got to be here, and I'm like, it's when he starts really putting his effort to pushing me away that I can make a leg lock. So from here, yeah, I got to keep making him work and work. When I feel this leg start to expand, because if he's not, I'm just going to start forcing the pass. Yeah, his leg starts to raise for me. I just drop into a foot lock. So the way I'm doing it is one of two ways. I'll start with a knee cut. I'm going here, and say he starts reorienting himself, getting his hips back towards center. Yeah, I'm just gonna play here and go across this way. Same foot lock. What I'm doing, the way I'm falling, is I'm trying to take this leg out of the game. I'm trying to take his free leg out of the game so he can't defend. A lot of leg locks involve weaving your foot through my legs and things like that. I want to take them out of the way. So we're here, I'm starting. It could be in either direction. I'm going in this direction. Here, Steve's starting to extend. Yeah, you feel how I'm putting pressure on your ankle? I'm putting pressure on my hip to his ankle. When I do that, his legs automatically rebound. So when I'm pushing into him, yeah, it starts to do that. If he's not already doing that, I force it by leaning into him even more and start trying to push him away. Yeah, when he pushes, I fall. So now the submission part of it. I don't really stress where on my forearm anything goes. I'm going to do it with my hips. My hips are the biggest muscles that we're using my hips and my back are the biggest muscles I'm using in this exchange. So I want to focus on that. So when I'm here, and however I fall, if I fall and my foot goes across his hip, or if I fall the traditional way, I'm using my hips to make this. So, ready? Mm-hmm. Just gonna use my legs. Right? You can feel the pressure already. So when I'm teaching my students, I teach them to practice no-handed. So right here, I'm just gonna break your leg over my leg. Here, I press. Until I get to that tap area. When you train yourself to do it with your legs first, the arm doesn't really matter. So now when you couple that, I start my pass, I fall. Leg pressure is what's helping me make the tap. It's not my forearm being underneath his calf. Are you guys following?
Yes, sir.
Questions so far? Anything from you?
No.
So you want to trigger a response one way or the other. If I'm passing this way, and I can force him, or I'm passing this direction, and I can force him to start trying to scoot underneath me. Nope. Just to get your hips back to center.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Actually, I probably should have my leg back. So when he starts trying to make that scoot back to center, I can lift, go right across his body. I trap. If he starts to get up, just switch to X guard. It's the same attack. When I'm leg locking him, I want to isolate his hip and keep his hip from getting near his heel. So it doesn't matter how my legs are. They could be wrapped around, they could be isolating on this side. I'm still doing the same leg lock. So back to center. So it'll probably be easiest if you ball play here. It's easier to force that hip reaction. If his knee starts to open, he knows I'm gonna pass. So he's gotta start shoving me away. So I'm here, yeah, I'm getting that shove. The leg's the last thing I grab. So I'm here, I'm passing, he shoves me away, I fall. Step across to his hip, this leg's here, now I grab. I look away. Questions?
Finishing with two hands?
Sometimes. Hey, don't worry about it. Worry about your legs. Like the arms, all secondary. So I pull the hand up. Sometimes I'll figure four it. Sometimes I just use one hand. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Can we see where your feet were when you finished?
So I'm cutting here. He pushes. I step to here. So if he starts to getting up, I can put a lot of pressure on him. Keep him flat. Now I'm here. I just bridge hard.
Is that right foot on his right leg?
No, it's on the floor.
It's on the floor? Okay.
Yeah. I can also throw it here, but it's just an extra effect. Doesn't really matter.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
So how far away is the leg to the point where you're like, okay, now it's time to go? Like,
What's that?
What's the trigger for you to be like, okay, now it's time to fall? When like the leg gets far enough away?
When he's going to stop me from passing by pushing me away.
Okay.
Does everybody understand his question?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, for those of you who didn't, he asked, when do I make my decision? I'm going to pass Steve's guard. Nothing personal. That's my goal. I want to pass your guard. I want to be on top of you. When Steve actually starts pushing me away, if I just start going right away, he's not going to get foot locked. He's got to make me move away from him. So I'm here, I'm driving through. Yeah. Right? Any other questions? No. All right, go ahead and do it. In case you don't know, this is my good friend Mike Littlefield.
He's not a white belt. Most of you guys know he's not a true white belt. He forgot his belt.
He's a white belt in life. One of my oldest friends in martial arts. I've known him forever. We've had each other's backs many a time, and I'm gonna use him because I like to hurt his ankles. No, I'm just kidding. So, back on your back. So I'm gonna use this to set up a pass, right? It's a very lazy way to do jiu-jitsu. I'm very lazy, and it makes a big difference, right? So, is that a knee brace? No. Okay, just pudgy old knees. So I'm gonna start setting up here. I'm playing, it's always on the pass, right? I wanna elongate his leg. So when I'm here, I'm start pushing, I'm gonna step, right? And Mike starts to put the boot on. So I'm gonna grab and pass. The longest way to do a leg drag. But it works, especially if people are afraid of footlocks. If they're not comfortable playing like one of our friends, Dan Simler, he always said it, like, it's really easy to finish somebody with a footlock. It's very hard to be in a footlock fight. So a lot of people will go all out to stop it right away, instead of maybe stretching it out. I've been guilty of this. I've escaped leg locks that I had zero business escaping because I knew they wouldn't be able to finish me. It ended up costing me points in a match where they recovered and played back smarter. If you're smart in a leg lock, you might win. Like if I can get Mike's, I don't know about right now because I'm old and my legs are shot. But more often than not, if somebody sits back on a leg lock, I'm going to finish them. More often than not. I'm still pretty good at leg locks. I'm still game when it comes to playing foot locks. If I throw the boot on, like that's what Mike was doing, just making his leg really hard and flexible, people are going to not want to be in a foot lock fight. They're just going to try and pass or do something smart. So this is great for somebody who's maybe paranoid about getting leg lock. I get here, yeah. He puts the boot on. I sit back, my arm comes around. Simple pass. Well, not yet. I just pull him back flat. And you can do this with any type of leg lock. Just the idea is you start your attack. When they give you full effort to stop your forward progress, then you abandon the attack and start moving forward. Like it's something I talk about with my students a lot. It's fight the next fight first. Don't waste time defending your guard when they're already passed. Start defending side control when they're passed. Right? Don't waste time trying to finish a leg lock when he's given all of his effort to stopping me from leg locking him. Just move on, do something else. So it's real simple. However you like to get into a leg lock. I'll always pull this leg here before I grab this ankle. Well, depending. If the foot's higher, I might grab his foot, especially if his knee's to his chest. But the foot's lower, I'm always gonna pull this knee to elongate his hip. So when I step and I sit, he puts the boot on, I lift. In position, pull him back flat.
Thanks for punching me.
Questions?
No, sir. When you say he puts the boot on, you're essentially just saying he just straightens his leg out and points his toes.
Yeah, so it's a decent way to shut down the start of an Achilles lock. Is I'm locking my quad out. Usually I'm pointing my toes in a little bit to really keep his shoulder raised and toward me. But if I fall asleep, I think this is all I need to be. Like being on your back is always bad. I need to be seated up to try and start defending this foot lock. If I start putting the boot on and I'm not seated up, all Mike has to do is switch his hand, does a backstroke with his left arm. No, just to get out, just to pass.
Oh, just a pass.
Yeah, grab my pant leg, there you go. He just sits up and passes. Why waste any energy, when there's an easier solution? Jiu-jitsu shouldn't be too hard. You're gonna get sweaty because you're moving fast, but you shouldn't be struggling and straining. That's not the essence of jiu-jitsu, right? Who else had a hand? Yes, ma'am.
So this is just only if you can't get that leg lock, they're really trying hard, just pass, go from there.
It's if I don't want to sweat, I'll just do this. If I don't want to get sweaty, I sit back, they defend right away, I'm going to pass and get up and I'll play top position there. I like being on top of people. I like holding people down. It makes a big difference in the game, Any other questions?
No, sir.
All right, go ahead and do it. Here's the thing. I'll tell you every way you're going to fail in leg locks. If his knees are to his chest and his heels are below his knees, I'm never going to elongate this leg. All right? I might be able to elongate his leg if his foot's above his knee and his knees to his chest. These are angles of 90 that are hard to defeat. I can't force his arm to his shoulder here. He's too strong in this area. But he'll have a hard time forcing his arm to his shoulder also because I'm too strong in this area. There are angles of 90 that happen throughout the human body. That's what I focus on. When I'm teaching jiu-jitsu, all my students train this way. I'm always looking to put you in a situation where you're on the wrong side of 90 to beat me. So when I'm doing this style of passing, this leg I might be able to extend, especially I like this type of play. I like to go here because when people feel comfortable doing this, I feel comfortable grabbing and just foot locking him because he's not in a strong position. This leg's still strong. I'd have a hard time finishing him here. That's why we were doing the earlier technique where I'm forcing him to push me away. If I don't make him push me away, I can't attack him here. So what I'll look for, especially, let's just go with the basic fundamental foot lock. My knee's in here. Both feet are low. I don't have a good attack position. So I'll start stepping up. His ankle's a little bit high. It's gonna be hard for him to get his heel to his butt. Also because my knee's in the way. How do I win? I don't win by grabbing his foot. Especially against a good foot locker, they're gonna see this a mile away. So instead, I win by grabbing his knee. And now when I sit, I'm real strong. Even if he had both arms around his leg, it's my body weight pulling him back. That's how I win that position. I win that position by being technically stronger than him, not physically stronger. I've never really been one to lift weights or do anything fitness oriented. I just do jiu-jitsu. But right now, you see what's gonna happen, right? Keep your knee to your chest, don't let me pull it. You got it, put your arms around here. You're strong. Watch, I fall back. That leg's gonna extend. I've got his foot to knee ratio beat. And if he did manage to keep it in because he's strong, he's got good abs, then we could just start levering into heel hooks. But I beat those angles of 90 in order to be stronger than whoever I'm fighting. If I can't beat him on my own, I beat him with strategy and tactics, and that's pushing things in. If I shove here, eventually he's gonna have to give me feedback coming back toward me. It's how all of jiu-jitsu really should work. That's the way I think about it a lot. I spend a lot of time forcing these types of patterns to happen. and that makes jiu-jitsu a lot easier for me. You know, I get people to extend and push me away. I have a whole series of Darce chokes I do when people are trying to escape because I'm passing here, maybe he's turtling up. I just grab here and look, I'm in a strong position. I just flip him over. Go right into a Darce choke. It's always that same fight. I don't like to fight where I'm weaker than somebody. So I only fight when I'm stronger. Does that make sense to you all?
Yes, sir.
The earlier you learn this in your jiu-jitsu career, the easier jiu-jitsu gets. Get people to push you away. Get people to extend their legs for you, and you'll have an easy time getting into all these different attacks. All right? Do you guys want to try that last footlock and pay a little bit more attention as to how I'm getting that extension to work? Yes. Well, it'll be a quick thing. You've already done it a bunch, but now this is what you're going to focus on. I don't want you focusing on grabbing. If I grab Josh's foot, what's going to happen? He's going to grab my elbow and omoplata me. He's going to do anything. She's going to escape as I sit back and get on top. I never grab anybody's leg. Right? I get here, I put pressure. I get here, I start overloading. When I sit back, I pull, and then I step them. My hand goes here. I tend to finish all my footlock submissions on my side facing the mat. You're always strongest where your shoulders are facing. If I'm facing the ceiling, I have this much of a range of motion. So I'm not very flexible, and I don't like to lift myself up too much. So when I fall, I will fall always towards the outside. And that's how I've mastered, how I got a lot better at footlocks when I started doing this attack only. I focus only on my legs. My right leg stepping, my left leg is extending. And now I look to the mat. I didn't have my arm around your leg, right? No. It just feels like I'm breaking your shin across my leg, right? Yes. An easy way to learn this, I have my students practice this. I just put my hand on my knee. I reach and give a high five, and I extend to the ceiling. So I'm gonna let go of his leg so you can see what I'm doing. Now my range of motion's changed. Before I could only lift my hips maybe 4 inches off the mat. Now watch my range of motion. I hit the mat, I extend. That's the range of motion I can put pressure into Josh's leg here. So I'm here, I'm down. I don't really get that far, do I? No. And that's without grabbing. I'm not gonna do it hard. But watch, see? I'm not using my legs anymore, right? You don't feel my legs tense up, but it's this range of motion I have, and I'm loosening up as much as I can. I'm not really using my legs anymore. I usually only do leg locks with one or two out of 4 limbs. It's the range of motion that's making all the work happen. Is that making sense to most of you? Yes, sir. All right, go ahead and do it.
Big hand for Matt. Thank you for coming down. All right, Matt, thank you so much. That was a great seminar.
My
Thanks,
pleasure.
Brother. So something I wanted to say was, before you started teaching and we were in my office just talking, you said, we were talking just about jiu-jitsu, and we were saying, you were asking, do you want gi, no gi? And I said, oh, let's do gi. And we were just talking about jiu-jitsu, and something that you said that I really thought was really cool and it stuck out was that whether it's MMA, gi, no gi, whatever, your jiu-jitsu is the same.
Yeah.
And what is your concepts behind that? Just so, what is your reasoning behind that? Just so, regardless of what sport you're choosing to do, or if it's a self-defense, it's just you're gonna fire hot.
Well, I'm a reductionist. I want to keep things as simple as possible, and simplicity means not changing it for Wednesday class or Tuesday class. When I'm teaching, if I'm teaching, let's say clock chokes. So it's all about the positioning, getting in position to make the clock choke. So I'll teach all that positioning on Monday and Wednesday, my gi days, and how to finish the choke. And then on Tuesday and Thursday, it's the same positioning. I might repeat it, and then we'll finish it a different way. So I like things to be very basic. I don't grab clothing until I'm at the end. It's a rarity you'll see me gripping onto someone's sleeve or a collar. I'll play a collar sleeve game, but that's that's not really my style of jiu-jitsu, but I know how to play it. But in general, I just like to do one form of jiu-jitsu. I also think of it this way: if you and I are rolling or we're in competition or whatever, I never put myself in a situation where you can flip out on me and drop a knee on my face or start punching and I'm not ready to defend myself.
Yeah.
My jiu-jitsu's always ready at all times. That's the way I've tried to treat it. And it's worked that way for me, you know?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. So now, we were saying too, because you started your academy, so it's been 22 years since you've been running just your academy.
in April, yeah. Will be 22 years of me owning an academy.
So when did you start training jiu-jitsu and MMA?
So,
Or who did you start training with? Because I know eventually you ended with Tim. You started training, right?
So I started out as a JKD, Jeet Kune Do martial artist. Jeet Kune Do, sorry. You know, Bruce Lee's martial art. I trained with a fellow named Keith Allen. But I was looking to do MMA. Like in '93 was the first UFC. I had my first fight in '99. So my thought process, like from the time of the first UFC to when I actually fought, was to find a way to do that. That looked like a lot of fun to me. And I went everywhere. I went to karate schools and like, oh, well, you'll learn arm bars when you get to black belt. I'm like, beat it, I'm out of here. Just kept going around. When I got to the JKD school, you know, even though they weren't super well versed on the ground, it was whatever you're good at, focus on that and build everything around it.
Yeah.
So I got into that. I ended my first jiu-jitsu tournament without doing jiu-jitsu. My first 2 jiu-jitsu tournaments. And I kept losing to guys from a now defunct school called JBA. Second time I lost, first time I lost was to a fellow, you know Joe Nye.
Yeah, Joe Nye, yeah.
Joe Nye's
awesome.
the first person I've ever wrestled like that didn't train with me.
Yeah.
And like that, I was just trying to figure it out from watching UFCs. That's how far.
And he's a big guy, so for you to compete against him, he's a monster.
I gave
of
up
a man.
44 pounds.
Yeah,
because
he's a big dude.
Well, my thinking was because JKD is a street fighting art. There's no weight classes or skill levels in the street.
Yeah.
Fight whoever comes. So I was 204. The weight class was 200. I get stuck with Joe Nye.
Yeah.
He beats the brakes off of me, obviously. Yeah. My next tournament, I cut the 4 pounds. I was a little bit smarter. And by my scrappiness, I ended up winning a few matches. Lost again to another JBA kid. That's when it was a weird thing because my homeboy from the Army, this kid Dennis Perry, his cousin, you probably know Leanne Verville.
Yeah.
Curly hair Leanne?
Yep.
That was Leanne's, my best friend from the service was her cousin. She was already training at JBA. I was telling him I've been getting into jiu-jitsu. He's like, oh, you should check out this place. I'm going with my cousin. Turns out it's the same school that I've been losing to. I go there. Leanne hurts me my first class. Heel hooks me.
Yeah.
She didn't know what she was doing. I didn't know what she was doing. But my knee knew what she was doing. It was hurting it. And that was it. She had been doing jiu-jitsu 6 months. And for those of you who don't know Leanne is 10 years older than me. I was 24, she was 34. Curly headed hair, ex-gymnast, librarian mom.
Yeah.
A sweetheart. And she hurt me, was almost crying because she heel hooked me until my knee popped. Because neither one of us knew what was going to happen.
I think she's probably one of the first female black belts in like South Coast area, no?
I don't know that she got her black belt. Did she have the Tommy?
I think so. I thought it was under Dawn, but I could be wrong. Maybe
That
I'm
was
wrong.
no, that was Candace, I believe.
Oh.
He gave her a black belt. Candace Bergen? Yeah, Candace Bergen.
Oh.
I believe Don gave her a black belt right before he passed. But yeah, that's how I ended up. I figure if this lady, this sweet lady, can hurt me by accident, I've got to learn jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And that was the start. And like, I was still like, I want to be an MMA fighter. Fought an MMA fight. 6 months later, beat a guy with like 5 black belts, like a bodybuilder. And like, there's me just chubby and like I wore fight shorts. I felt real awkward in them.
What event was that?
It was the very first round Val Tudo.
Oh, okay, yeah, because there was what, 4 or 5 of those? Was there 4 or 5 of those?
Round Val Tudo, I want to say stopped at 6 or 7.
Right.
I could be wrong.
Who
though.
ran that?
Kip Kolar from Naga.
Oh, okay.
In the dark days, no gloves.
Yeah.
Tim Sylvia made his debut that same show. Jorge Rivera made his debut that same show. I'm pretty positive Mike Littlefield made his debut that same show.
Yeah.
That's how far back I go with Mike.
Yeah.
You know, it was like Tim Sylvie was just the toughest out of his friends, and he ended up deciding to fight. And
Yeah, I think Joe fought Tim. Joe fought him and Jeff Munson too. Joe Nye.
Did Joe fight him?
Yeah, I don't know if it was that event, but I know he fought him at some point.
I know he's mad. Yeah. I'm trying. It's been a while. And
Yeah.
It's been a few too many shots to the head. I
Yeah.
guess. But yeah, he could have. You know, Joe was right up there. Joe was like same deal. He ended up having a family and stuff like that. But like a lot of people who started ahead of me, they got back into it and they got their black belts. Joe Nye, Tommy Texera, Vlad Suslovich. I think that's it from that.
So then so that's when you went to JBA. You met those guys.
Yeah, met those guys. Trained hard. Trained real hard. That was a crazy.
And
gym.
was Don a jiu-jitsu guy or a judo guy?
Judo guy. His mom was a judo
black
champion
belt, right?
judo champion from Japan, and she would teach him and his brother Hank, and he would spend summers going out and training with his granddad.
Oh, okay.
So when he turned 18, went out and won state championship in Japan, and then I guess his mom hit him off with some money or his granddad, and he spent like a month and a half, 2 months training, like just doing classes with Hoist and Gokor.
Oh, nice.
So that's when he added like the BJJ flavor. He was a very submission-oriented judo game.
Yeah.
Not just throws, but submission-oriented. And phenomenal guy. Like he's responsible for for not just a lot of jiu-jitsu, but the majority of the leg lockers, the first generation of leg lockers in New England, all trained through Don at some point or another. You know.
Yeah, I want to say everybody I've met, in the South Coast area that's been around for any length of time has trained with him. At some point.
Yeah, phenomenal martial artist. Real good influence. Like, at one point his team JBA, we beat out Henso's team. Back when it was still, they all fought under one academy banner. We beat them out in tournaments.
Oh wow!
Yeah, like did real well. I rapidly progressed training with him. Got really far.
And at that time, I don't think there was really any other MMA schools around, right? Like he was probably one of the first MMA schools in the South Coast area, right?
Yeah, well,
because that was before you. That was before reality fighting.
Well, he was doing
Lozon's was what reality self-defense.
Yeah, reality self-defense. He was doing jiu-jitsu and no-gi stuff, but the MMA was just, hey, we had one night a week we'd spar, and we would spar hard with crappy little gloves.
Yeah.
And busted noses were regular, knockouts, like people going, like we trained everything full speed.
Yeah.
Heel hooks full speed, MMA full speed, everything.
And MMA was so new too. You were kind of still learning and making things up as you went, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that was just the name of the game.
I remember the very first knee thrown in New England was in the middle of a fight, and someone yelled out knee, and the guy threw a knee. Before that, nobody had thrown a knee. There was zero concept of whether or not that was legal, but they threw it. The guy got dropped. I think it was a knee to the body, and he finished him. And from then on, knees were part of MMA, NHB back then they called it. In New England, it was a little crazy back then.
So at what point did you transition from doing that into more straight jiu-jitsu, right, with Tim Burrell, right? You ended up finding Tim at...
So I had my gym in Providence, and I was still doing a lot of MMA stuff. Trying to figure out the gi stuff the same way I tried to figure out jiu-jitsu in the first place. Just putting it on and wrestling with it. Me and Tim were competitors. We were friendly competitors. We had met at Mike's gym at the Boneyard during open mats.
Oh, okay.
So we meet, we'd run into each other. We made friends, we got along well, and we trained. And homeboy pinned me for 40 minutes. First time I wrestled him.
Yeah.
I was not somebody to be pinned. To this day, I'm not somebody to be held down at all. But Tim pinned me flat on my back in side control for 40 minutes.
Yeah.
That was a fluke. The next time we trained, I think he pinned me a bunch, and then he started submitting me. And then I realized it wasn't a fluke the first time. He was being polite and not submitting me in my own gym. And that's what started me on that BJJ path.
Yeah.
Within 9 months, 6 to 9 months from when I put the gi on, I won Pan Ams in the old man's division as a purple belt, unscored upon, flying armbar to the dude.
Nice.
Like I did well. But Tim was that added piece I was missing. I needed a coach. Like when me and Don had parted ways.
Yeah.
Don was much more submission oriented than position oriented.
Yeah.
Not saying that he wasn't position oriented at all, but he was much more
Different
into
style.
yeah. We had a bunch more submissions, fast attacks and things like that. You know.
Yeah.
Tim is very positional, and the fundamentals of jiu-jitsu, he's the one who really drilled that in. Like, when I met Tim, I helped do that book, 1001 Submissions. I did 200 submissions in 8 hours for them, because they were stuck.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. If I know 200
So
submissions
he
right now-
wrote a book, 1001?
No, I did it with Keurig. With Keurig, Dave Roy, and Chad Beatty. I helped them out. It was like 200 submissions in 8 hours. No big deal.
Yeah.
I can't think of 200 things anymore.
Yeah.
You know, you give me a week to show you 200 things, I'd have a hard time.
Yeah.
I really pared down my game to strong fundamentals. Like, I do submissions when I feel like it.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know, like, or when you make me, not you personally,
Yeah,
but when
yeah. When
my
somebody-
opponent makes me do
yeah.
a submission, I'll do a submission. But
Yeah.
I just like pinning people, holding them down, and being relaxed and not getting sweaty. You
Yeah,
know, like,
yeah.
if I can make it through 2 classes with the same gi, I'm pretty pumped. You know, it's just been it's the nature of the beast. Like, you don't want to work as hard when you're older.
Yeah, I think, your game evolves sometimes physically because
Yeah.
you can't do some of the stuff you used to do. Sometimes you don't want to do some of the stuff you used
Yeah.
to do, right? You know, but so going back to that time, so when you started with Tim, he was in Providence at that point?
He was in North Providence, I was in Cranston.
Oh, okay. So, speaking of the Cranston gym, is that where and as soon as I started doing this show, I said, man, I gotta get Matt on here to talk about this. So, one of the big New England, but in reality, I think one of the biggest, like a big moment rather in MMA was the Kimbo Slice Sean Gannon fight, which at the time, which I don't know if everybody knows, but most people, if they don't know, it happened at your academy in New England, in Rhode Island.
Yep.
And that is, now looked at as like a historic moment. So how did that even take place?
All right. So, long story short, Sean Gannon called me. By the way, for those of you who don't know, Sean Gannon passed away this summer.
Yeah.
Rest in peace, Shawnee. Sean called me because he was still fighting amateur. He was also a Boston cop. And
at that time, you could still lose your job.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you were afraid. Because
Oh,
even when
yeah.
I was looking to compete, I was afraid.
Yeah. And it was an
that was way
underground
later.
fight because it was a unsanctioned bare knuckle sparring match. So Sean called me. He's like, "Hey, listen, they had been going back and forth, jawing back and forth. So it was a matter of honor now." And the Icy Mike and the Kimbo crew all thought, like, "Oh, we'll beat anybody who's never boxed pro." We'll beat anybody who's never boxed pro. Well, Sean Gannon was a junior Olympian in boxing, I want to say.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he was at the Olympic Training Center for boxing. I knew he had great boxing from training with him at Sit Yat Tong. He needed a place to have the fight, so I said, "Yeah, go ahead." It was us against them back then. Like, this is before people really understood what was up with MMA.
Yeah.
They just thought it was some guys grab-assing and doing WWE moves on each other. And
Well, it wasn't as big. It still was thought of as some huge underground thing.
Yeah.
And nothing like it was today.
So I agreed to have the fight. Like, I used my meager carpentry skills to build a knee wall to keep everybody from going into my weight.
Yeah,
my
it looked like a
weightlifting
little
equipment.
hockey rink.
Yeah,
You had the
I didn't
wall
want anybody smashing into the to my weight equipment and knocking themselves out or whatever.
Yeah.
And we had the fight, and it was crazy. It was probably, if it weren't for the Ultimate Fighter finale that same year, that would have been probably the most pivotal moment in MMA.
Yeah.
That bad luck because that happened, but that fight's been talked about everywhere. Rolling Stone, Stars and Stripes, Boston Globe,
It's
that's
crazy.
if you look
Huge moment.
any copy of that fight you find on YouTube's got over a couple million views.
Yeah, and when you look in the background, you see all the pioneer
you
MMA
see two
schools.
people. Yeah, you see Mike Littlefield.
Yeah.
You see Dave Gilrain back there.
Yeah.
You see Danny and Joey Lozon.
Yeah.
like a bunch of people, like how many, like the amount of future black belts you can find in there.
Yeah.
Is crazy. Like
What year was that took place? Do you remember?
Come on.
Yeah, I'm just wondering.
It was in
I was like,
04.
was I at your place yet, and it happened at night?
Do you remember when Isaiah trained with us? He had the long black ponytail. I think he may have been a night class guy. Yeah, but it was like between 03 and 05, I want to guess. It was the same year. It was the first year of the Ultimate Fighter.
Yeah.
So when the Ultimate Fighter came out, I was and like so that fight was so huge, and I was like the unofficial referee.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't really a referee. It was,
It
it was mob rule. But you know, it was a good time. I would never do it again.
Yeah.
I'm a sports guy. Like I like sportsmanship, and like right away when that fight started, zero feeling of sportsmanship.
Yeah.
I've refereed a bunch of MMA fights.
Yeah.
I've been at even more.
Yeah.
Either as a ref or a competitor. I mean, as a coach or competitor. And there was zero sportsmanship there. They were not. It was not cool at all. And I'm like, all right, this is not my thing. Like I like sports. You know?
Yeah. Well, I got to tell you, for sportsmanship, that's something else I always truly admired, that how you acted competing in both jiu-jitsu and MMA. Whether win, lose, or draw, if you won, you didn't rip off your gi and bang your chest. You didn't scream at the crowd. If you lost, you didn't get upset. You always were very humble in victory and defeat. And so I remember watching you at Club Lido fight. I think I saw you there at least twice. I think you fought Seneca. I saw you there once with that. And but you know, before the fight, after the fight, the way you carried yourself. You know, I used to, at the time would laugh because you'd be outside smoking a cigarette and then come in. But you always had this mindset of there was, whether it be injury, anything, there was no excuse, nothing was going to stop you, to the point where, like I was saying before, when we were talking about knee injuries, I remember seeing you at tournaments, stop for a second, pop your knee back in place, and then go back and compete. And I was like, there's not a lot of people that have that mindset to, just keep going and push through,
Yeah, I'm deep down inside, I'm a competitive asshole, but I'm a good sportsmanship guy.
Yeah.
It was something my dad really instilled in me. My dad didn't play football, but he played other sports. And when I played, I excelled at football when I was a kid. He's like, when you run somebody over, when you hit somebody and you drop them, help them back up, because you're going to do it again.
Yeah.
and there's nothing wrong with competing hard, but when the play's over or when the match is over, the fight's over, you got to be a gentleman. You got to be a respectable person,
Yeah.
Like, and I was always like that. Like, hey, we're just playing basketball. I never got mad, luckily I've never had anybody be super dry. I've only had one guy be a little crappy. I didn't like him. But other than that, like, I've liked everybody I competed with. Like me and Seneca, we've gone back and forth, jiu-jitsu tournaments, MMA fights.
Yeah.
I love Seneca. He's a great dude.
Awesome guy.
Like, I bust his chops, but I'll always talk trash to him because he beat me. I don't like losing to anybody either. I'm one of those people, like, I'll talk trash no matter what, like, in a friendly way. Never in a put down somebody, like.
But even in that fight, like you say, he beat you, but you were doing stuff too. Like, I remember, I think you dropped for a rolling knee bar.
Yeah.
You did stuff that, like, a lot of people wouldn't dare to do in a fight. Like, you just went for it,
Yeah. Well, it's also this, like, I had, we were talking about teaching in Costa Rica, and they kept asking me, do you ever worry about this? I'm like, I don't worry about anything. It's an MMA fight. It's a jiu-jitsu match. I can tap. Like, I'm not gonna get thrown off a cliff for losing. Like, why would I worry about it? I'm just gonna go out there and fight. And like, I had probably a lot more of that Japanese spirit. Like, don't forget, during the early part of my career, you could only watch UFCs on satellite.
Yeah.
They didn't have as many. They had a lot of prides though, also.
Yeah.
And you saw that warrior spirit that was real big to me. Not like. And the UFC also had it back a lot. Not just, they have it now also, obviously.
Yeah.
But that, just go out and, like, just fight.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't treat it like a sport ever, except for the sportsmanship. I just treated it like a fight. I'm going to go, and I'm not going to try and dance around. I'm going to try and rip through this person.
Yeah. It wasn't thought of as like a business thing, right? Now it's a career business thing or whatever, as opposed to just going out there and, like you said, representing your team, or, competing.
Yeah, I just like to fight. I like sports. Like, if it wasn't this, I'd be riding skateboards or playing golf or in a volleyball league or a dart league. I'll always do something for competitive fun.
Yeah. What were some of the first jiu-jitsu tournaments? Because when you first started too, that was like
Naga didn't even exist.
Yeah, I remember the first one that came out, and it was called something else.
NEGA.
Yeah.
New England Grappling Association.
I mean, now you could compete every weekend, but at one time there was nothing. You were lucky if you could do something once every year, 2 years, right?
No, you'd have to drive around. I would, Kip Kolar is the man. Like, he started all of it in New England.
Yeah.
And like schools grew because of that, because there was a place to compete.
Yeah.
And that's how I found my first gym. And I ended up having his gym. And then so like, think of it this way, Kip Kolar, I enter, I meet Don Banville. I become one of his students.
Yeah.
This is just for me alone. From Kip to me to Don. And then I have my own gym. From my gym,
this is a great spot to be in.
at least four gyms have opened just from my gym.
Yeah.
So from that one tournament, that very first tournament, 4 gyms have opened.
Yeah.
And who knows how many gyms have opened based off of that.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's only one person.
Yeah,
like Kip
you're right.
Kolar, like he belongs in the BJJ, grappling, and whatever Hall of Fame for what he's done.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's a lot of like smaller level guys, but yeah, he did something special.
Yeah. And he had the early MMA events, right?
Yeah, and he still has them.
Yeah.
He still does them.
Yeah, yeah, he has
He's got one in
coming
January,
out, right?
January 8th,
Yeah.
I want to say. Second Saturday in January, yeah. Like, dude took a risk. He was a legit businessman and gave it all away to be grappling MMA shows. Like people like that dude's name doesn't get mentioned enough as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Gave everybody a chance. A lot of people chances.
Yeah.
And a lot of people made good careers with his help.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he definitely employs a lot of people too, right? All the refs, all the timekeepers, scorekeepers.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people working for him.
Oh yeah.
And I think most of those pioneer schools, yourself included, you guys worked for him as well, right? I mean, as referees.
That's how I got to compete a lot. I used to referee. I used to time keep when I first started. Time keep and score keep for free admission to compete. And I would just go wherever he went. I would. All I have to do is sleep there and work all day, then I get to wrestle.
Yeah, yeah.
Great.
Yeah,
I get to watch people do what I like to do the most, and then I get to compete for free.
Yeah, can't beat that.
Not a bad sale, right?
Yeah.
And that helped me. That was a big thing, is I competed a lot, and that's how I got good fast.
Yeah, yeah. I was talking to Lowe's and he was talking about early MMA, and when I didn't realize the commission came in and then disappeared. I thought they just weren't there forever, and then eventually kind of came in. But he mentioned that one of the times where everybody was sitting down having a rules meeting in the back, and they were like kind of just making up the rules as they went, and then they were saying something about
wear t-shirts.
You need t-shirts. Yeah, you need t-shirts, and you were like, well, can we choke with the t-shirt? And they're like, no t-shirts.
Yeah.
How is that? What was that like?
It was banana. They were doing their best, but like it wasn't illegal. It was not a thing. So
Yeah.
you couldn't make a law to say it was legal or illegal yet, because they hadn't even defined what it was.
Yeah.
Mike Littlefield, again, very pivotal when we didn't have a commission. So the commission started, and then when they realized they didn't have an idea of what MMA was, they just wanted a piece of it, and they wanted to have some control over it, which makes sense. You want to make sure people stay safe.
Yeah.
Then they left when they're like, hey, there's no way. And they're like, we'll leave you guys alone, but you guys can't get crazy. Mike, a few guys, Mike Varner, I think, was a party to it. I helped out very little. Dave Ginsburg helped out a lot. Like, a few people, they handled it. They carried New England MMA on their back.
Yeah.
And again, Mike Littlefield, my dude.
Was that with building the rules, or with that event when he started full force and all that?
We ran our own events.
Yeah.
Like, we just ran them. And there were nights where some of the judges would have guys fighting later on in the show, or coaching.
Yeah.
That's where sportsmanship becomes really important. Is if I'm going to be there and I'm going to be refereeing, and obviously I've trained with everybody at one point or another, and I've got friends in every gym. You've got to trust me to be a legit sportsman.
Yeah.
To not be a scumbag
fair.
ref.
Yeah.
And that's like, I'm very fair-minded. Like I don't like people who abuse systems.
Yeah.
Like, and that's how we handle it. Like all of us just ran shows. We had fights, and we made do.
Yeah.
And you had to trust each other, and you had to. It was much more of a brotherhood. Like when in those days, up to 2010, I don't think there was a school in New England that I wouldn't know somebody at.
Yeah.
And same thing, vice versa. You know?
Yeah, so definitely a smaller community, which was nice.
Yeah.
It's good.
It's great that it's growing.
Yeah.
But it's people don't know each other. There's not that level. There's a general level of respect, but not a level of friendship.
Yeah, you know what?
That underlies it all.
That was like the whole underlying idea of why to even do this YouTube channel was I saw some coaches like cutting each other's throats, and I was like, man, this isn't martial arts. This isn't how I was showed by any coach I've ever had how to act and how to be. Yeah. So I was like, you know what? I want to get all the people in New England and hang out, talking.
It's this, man. I've lived by this thought process forever. Pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. Me and Manny Neves had gyms. Me and Tim had gyms in the same place.
Yeah.
I never really cared. It's the people who are insecure in their skill set that care about stuff like that. With me, it's all right, great, man. You can open a gym one town over. It doesn't matter. You can open a gym in the same town. The more people that do jiu-jitsu with you, the more people are going to do jiu-jitsu with me.
Yeah.
It's going to be word of mouth. It might be your first student. He has a good friend that lives 10 minutes on the other side from my side.
Yeah.
So they're not going to make it all the way through to go to you. They're going to come to me.
Yeah.
But that's your student.
Yeah,
You helped him.
Yeah.
Your guy's the one who got him into jiu-jitsu, and he came to me instead. Great.
Yeah, that famine mentality of there's not enough to go around, right?
Yeah, Rhode Island's a state of 1.5 million or something like that.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people. My gym's
yeah.
not. My gym doesn't need all those people.
Yeah.
I'll be happy with the amount of people I have. You know,
Yeah.
same deal. Like I've never been that kind. Like there are people I don't get along with.
Yeah.
Or we don't vibe.
Yeah.
I don't need to say anything bad about them. Like whatever.
I agree.
Maybe you'll like them. You know,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to influence anybody's friendships.
Yeah.
You know, if I had known somebody's being shady or is reckless with their students, then that's part of my responsibility.
I think
also.
that comes to a lot of it too. Comes with maturity and maturity of running a place, right?
Yeah.
Running a school, you've been there, done that. 22 years of doing it, you have nothing to prove either.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I don't need all the students in the world. I told you, I don't. My gym's always very upper belt heavy. I don't like a lot of white belts in my gym. Like, but like we don't have the same. I don't have the same mechanism that other gyms have, where they focus on white belts, and like my gym. It's you gotta just. It's not as much sink or swim like when you started, right? Where it was crazy at my gym.
Yeah.
Now we teach.
But I gotta tell you, I think just like when I first started mine, you appreciate it. Like I appreciated that. Like because when I found you, it was, hey, I want to fight MMA.
Yeah.
Enough for all this other stuff. It was kind of like your story, where I was like, okay, I want to fight MMA, and you were. Everywhere I looked, you were the only real MMA school around that taught jiu-jitsu and kickboxing. You had the MMA class. You had your jiu-jitsu no-gi in the morning.
Yep.
You had eventually you got the kid that came down from Sitong Tong, and then you had that deal where me and a couple guys could go up there for like cheap money because you used to teach there.
Yeah.
It was a really good connection, and even going up to Sitong Tong in Boston, they always treated us like gold. Hey, we're Matt's guys, you know.
No, I'm teaching. I've known Mark and Marie almost as long as I've been doing martial arts.
Yeah.
I'm teaching up there this weekend. I leading towards tournaments are still like family reunions. It's just that now it's just the cousins and the uncles and aunts of my generation. I don't know all the younger kids.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like there's tons of black belts I've never even seen.
Yeah.
Like I've never really laid eyes on them, so I wouldn't even know them. If they bumped into me. Like.
Yeah. Yeah, as it keeps growing, the faces change, and some of those senior guys, those guys you don't see around anymore.
Yeah. Like I haven't
right.
seen Roberto Maia, one of the other legends, Boston Brazilian.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Roberto in probably 5 years. I love that guy.
Yeah.
That was Mike introduced me to him.
Yeah.
Great guy. That was Kenny Florian's coach.
Yep.
Like Mark Delagrati. Like Mark DeLaGrasse is another person that like people miss out. Like he was the first real like Muay Thai influence.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Trained a lot of people.
Yeah.
And he doesn't get enough credit. You know, like he's focused. You know, he's always gonna have his gym, but he's focused.
Because there wasn't really a lot of Muay Thai gyms. It was like American kickboxing you could find around here, but you couldn't find Muay Thai.
Yeah. And like before I forget, Joe Pomfret, another cat.
Pomfret.
He's one of your guys,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Joe Pomfret was my first training partner.
Yeah,
that
he's
dude's
awesome.
a legend, and like wouldn't have Joe Lozon without Joe Pomfret.
Yeah, of course.
You know, like I remember Joey when he was like 15 years old, 14 years old.
Yeah.
Like just there, like only he was built 100% out of ears, and like developed into like one of the most legendary UFC fighters ever. You know, like you can't go very far without finding somebody who's a UFC fan that doesn't know who Joe Lozon is. You know, New England area has been very blessed with a lot of good martial artists, but like me personally, I've been blessed with a lot of good friends.
Yeah.
You know, like.
Well, you also were at Tim's. You were with Jorge and Lawler, right?
Yep.
And then there was the other younger guy, way after your generation of guys. But what's the kid that he ended up going to TriStar? He was a skateboarder.
Oh, Eric Spicely.
Yeah, Eric Spicely.
Eric Spicely,
right?
But then there's also Radness Familia, who won Abu Dhabi World Championships at Purple Belt.
Oh, yeah,
Broke the Prince's arm in Abu Dhabi. That's sketch.
There you go.
With nobody. This is when
You might not get a flight back.
This is when Buchecha was a brown belt.
Yeah.
That's how far ago it was. Like,
Yeah.
a lot of great jiu-jitsu came from Tim. And don't forget, like, I don't know if you ever met him, my training partner, Damon Smith.
I only met him briefly. I was with Joe at some like expo thing, and I met him briefly.
That dude's.
Did he move? He moved too, right? Did he move
To Austin.
Yeah.
He goes back and forth.
When I
to
was
work.
training with you, I remember guys all the time going, "Oh, you ever train with Damon?" And I'm
Damon's
like, "No."
the
It was
worst.
like his name would be whispered.
No, Damon's the worst, man. Damon and I, we've been all over the country, you know, like out west and stuff like that. And wherever we've gone, people have just refused to train with either one of us. I always thought it was just Damon, but then I've had it happen when I wasn't with him.
Yeah.
Like Damon would enter a gym and he would just look around and everybody found something interesting in their nails. They had something to look at. Zero eye contact whatsoever with Damon. And it's smart. I was stuck with him. We were training partners. But I didn't want to be training partners with him. I wanted somebody I wanted somebody who was less athletic, less smart, less strong.
Big, strong, athletic guy too, right? And
super
technical.
smart. No,
right?
Dude's got an MBA. He's super smart.
Yeah.
Way smarter than me. And he was always like, I grew up with him. He was always a nerd. I'm telling you right now to your face, Damon, because you're far away. You were always a nerd. Like we went to camp together. And
really?
Yeah, we went to. I'm a year older than him. We went to the same boys club camp. We went to the same middle school. I threw track against him in high school. Like he's just an uber athlete, and he's smarter than everybody.
Know who was somebody at your place that I used to love training with? One of your students was Rich Moskowitz.
Rich Moskowitz.
Yeah, he was one of the coolest guys to train with. He always helped me out a ton.
Dude was an animal.
Yeah.
That dude had a great MMA career.
He was off the show, that UFC show early on, right? And then he turned it down.
I don't know what happened with that, but like he was going through law school. Worked about 100 hours a week at a group home overnights.
Yeah.
Coached wrestling out of college and did MMA.
Yeah.
All at the same time.
Workhorse.
And he was like, his first year, I think he was top 3 in his class at law school.
Yeah.
And he was like that kid who didn't open his books. Yeah, no, Rich Moskowitz, like I've been very blessed with the amount of people I've known. Like he was an animal, excellent martial artist, tough wrestler from a family wrestler.
Great person too. He would come in and be like, "Let's train, let's train."
Yeah,
you know?
there's not a lot of BSing on the mat with Rich around.
Yeah.
No, we had a lot of great training back then. You know, that was when I was not just a coach. I was like everybody's training partner. We all trained together. We all trained hard.
I have an interesting story. I'm not going to say the name because it's I don't want it to be taken wrong or whatever. But when I used to work at a prison, so I had somebody that was in my unit. It wasn't at that point I was like a drill instructor, so they were in my unit as an inmate, but it wasn't a cell block. Yeah. But either way, so I had a fight for full force. And this is right before I started training with you. And I look in the crowd and I saw that person. And he kind of gave me a smirk, but a smile. So I'm like, shit, I'm going to get in a fight after I fight. Like I thought, you know, like this guy's going to jump me or he's going to, something's going to happen. Because it was just this type of look. So fast forward it, I go into your academy and I'm training at your place, I think for probably about a year, but I was in the morning because I worked afternoons. So somebody from the night, they came in the morning and it was that person. And I'm like, oh shit, how's this gonna go down? I ended up being very, very close with him while we were training. He was a purple belt. I think before you even gave me my blue, I was a white belt, I think. And I learned a ton from him. And then me, him, and another one of your guys, we all would carpool up to Boston together. And to this day, he was another big influence for me in jiu-jitsu. And I was like, man, what a crazy story where, you know, being a young guy doing the prison job where they kind of brainwash you to act and be a certain way. And then to see this person on the outside and build a rapport with them in a relationship to where I'm like, man, this is a great person.
Yeah.
And he was a great training partner and a carpool partner, you know, whatever.
Yeah,
but that's jiu-jitsu, right?
Yeah, there's tons of those stories. There are guys that I thought they were straight dickheads.
Yeah.
Like really, really just like they had that resting douche face. Like this guy just looks like a real asshole. And then the first time I talked to them, I'm like, wow, I've been way off. And like I've always, you know, I'm judgmental, but I don't treat people differently.
Yeah.
You know, I try and treat everybody with a level of respect, regardless of how they treat me. I'll be respectful to everybody. But like, I wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna be friends with this guy. There's nothing that'll stop me from hanging out. If that dude's within 30 minutes of my house, I will drive out and meet him. Like, Another kid, old school kid, Jeff Nader. I don't know if you remember him.
I remember the name because he fought, right?
Yeah,
I remember the name.
Yeah, he fought in Bellator. I reffed him in I coached him in Bellator. Jeff Nader, me and him from the start, we've been tight. Like, I knew his wife before he knew her, and before I met him. And when she started dating him, she's like, oh, you're probably like my boyfriend. He's a lot like you. I'm like, I probably will hate his guts if he's a lot like me. And we met, and I definitely hate his guts, and I love that dude so much. Like, I'm always excited.
Yeah.
He lives in Houston now. I'm always trying to, like, plan flights so I have a layover in Houston just to hang out with him.
That's awesome.
Yeah, there's so many there's way more good people than bad people in MMA.
Yeah.
You know, there's very few that slip through the cracks. And even then, the ones that are bad, they just don't get along with you.
Yeah.
You know?
And sometimes they weed themselves out too.
Yeah. A bad attitude on the mat really ends up with a lot of hard chokes, a lot of hard arm bars.
Yeah.
And you know, either your attitude changes or you get sick of getting hurt and you decide to go someplace else. And if they nurture that bad attitude, that's great. You know, that's your problem, not mine.
Yeah, exactly. That's
just keep it away from me. You know? But like, this, like we were talking, you know, your coach Deco, like, I like everybody, you know, like especially if you're a competitor. If you're a competitor and that's all that matters to you, man, that's all I want to hear.
Yeah.
Like, that's why, like I said, I don't know him great. I haven't talked to him probably 10 years, but the few times I interacted with him, he seemed straight up like a good dude. And when you started training with him, you know, you had nothing but nice things to say about him. I'm like, great, that's just another person, chalk another one up for the good guys. Like, you know, like my ball busty nature and like my smart mouth probably rubs people the wrong way, but they can never say, oh, I cheated or I tried to get points out of somebody or, you know.
Yeah. Well, I think everybody knows too, like, that part of your personality is also, it's fun.
Yeah.
You know, you know.
I like joking around.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, and the way you run your programs are geared towards, you know, the personality of you.
Yeah.
You know, and that's, you know, so I mean, there's, you know, not everybody likes, you know, vanilla ice cream, right? Somebody wants something different, you know. Yeah, 100%. But so speaking of your academy, what programs are you teaching nowadays? Do you have like kids and adults,
so
MMA?
I have a small kids program, mainly consisting of my kid and people who want to train like, you know, once or twice a week. I'm building like right now it's just a free program. When it gets busy, I'll start charging people for it. When it starts being work, instead of just showing my kid how to do jiu-jitsu with another kid. But we just run gi, no gi, and Muay Thai / MMA, and it's, you know, 7 days a week. We're finally starting to get our day classes going again, but I'm not running them anymore. And that's it. Like I just like a place that has a lot of training opportunities. Yeah. The more times you get to train, the better. And you know, a lot of hard rolling. That's always been my thing. Like, you remember? Like, It got hectic for a while. I did power hours for the last 2 months of the year. It would just be a half hour of Q&A, and then an hour of rolling.
Yeah.
And it would start 5-minute rounds the first week, 10-minute rounds the second week, 15-minute rounds the third week, 20-minute rounds the fourth week, 30-minute rounds the fifth week, then 45-minute rounds the rest of the time. One person, me and you, rest 45 minutes. And then we would do 15 minutes of King of the Guard at the end.
Yeah.
Sprinting. So you're sprinting at the very end. First year I did that, I think we started at like 34, 35 people in class. By the end of the power hours, we had like 16 people in class. And like, I've definitely cost my gym multiple students. I've had like people quit over something. It's just like too much. But then, you know, like I said, I don't like a lot of white belts. So like, I get those diamonds in the rough, the white belt who starts in the month of power hours. And they just like, I'm just gonna get beat up for an hour.
Yeah.
Awesome.
No quit mentality.
Yeah, and then they want to be in there. You know, like I'll always try and put them with maybe somebody who won't beat on them.
Yeah.
You know, they're just gonna lose. But I just, you know, I like that old tough mentality. Like, you know, my students might not be the best, but they're among the toughest. You know, like.
And also too, they're getting a well-rounded jiu-jitsu. Like again, your style isn't just a competition style. It's fighting, self-defense, sport, no sport, gi, no gi. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Well, the reason why I started was you never know when you have to fight for your life.
Yeah.
And you don't want to find out you can't fight for more than whatever time limit your rank is.
Yeah.
You don't want to find out as a black belt that you only have 12 minutes of gas.
Yeah.
So like I just started doing it to everybody like that. I like marathon rolls. Like I used to do, I haven't done it since I was 44, but I used to do a submission or a round per year I was born. So if I could tap somebody in a minute, great. I get the rest of that round off.
Yeah.
But like that gets old, man. That gets tiring.
Yeah.
Like it would like towards the end, like at 44, I think it took me an hour and 20 minutes to do 44 matches.
It's a lot.
Yeah, that's too much. That's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, you shouldn't do it. You know, it's a good gut check though. Like I like that. Like I said, I don't like a lot of exercise. So building endurance is you gotta do it through what you like to do. And
through jiu-jitsu.
Like that marathon, that's like an ultra marathon for jiu-jitsu. You know, like I don't know if I could roll for 2 hours straight with a minute breaks, or sometimes an added break. But like, I know I can go an hour and 45 minutes pretty steadily. So like, it's just different training methods. I like, not being a sports school or not being an MMA school or not being anything, just a martial arts academy. I think it's good,
Yeah, of course. I agree. So Matt, your school now, it's in Pawtucket. Where in Pawtucket are you guys located?
We're at 999 Main Street, the Hope Artiste Village, I think it's called, or Mill. It's an old factory, old mill that they converted into office spaces and different type of creative spaces. Suite 112, we're on the first floor. Nice place, quiet, super high ceilings. And it works well. It's 3 miles from my house.
Oh, you can't beat that. That's huge.
Yeah. So in the summertime, I'll ride my bicycle there. Even in the wintertime, if it's not rainy, I'll ride my bicycle. I could jog if someone was chasing me.
Yeah, if you had to.
But I'm not running from anybody. But it's a nice place, quiet. I always like low-key gyms. No, I'm not really big on that. You remember my gym?
Yeah.
I don't like any advertising. I don't like.
Yeah. Well, I think like your style, and like I said about being humble and victory, defeat, regardless. I think that all fits you. That is Matt Santos. That is, you come in, we train. I don't have to have some shiny object to show you to make, you know what I mean? Like you just come in and here's hard work and this is how you do it.
Yeah, I could be better about it. It could be more helpful. Like, the striping system lets people know that you're seeing them. It's hard. Like rank with me, you're looking 2 to 3 years per rank, more often than not.
Yep.
Just because. I want people to. My coach always did a good job of saying, what's it matter if I give you a black belt? I'll give you a black belt right now. Does that make you a black belt?
Yeah.
Maybe, maybe not. Some people.
Yeah.
But if you're good at jiu-jitsu, you're good at jiu-jitsu no matter what rank you have. And that's why I always really try to emphasize. Like I said, there's things I could do better that would probably be better.
One, it should be, oh my God, I don't think I deserve this, because I don't think you're ever good enough.
Yeah.
The jiu-jitsu game is never going to end, so you should be training as much as possible, physically possible that you possibly can do to be the best. And then when you get your rank, you should be happy and proud, but I don't think you should ever say, oh, I'm good enough, because at that point you got to quit.
Yeah, I'm better than somebody. That's all I know.
Yeah, you got to keep going, because you're never going to be, the best.
My coach had a lot of good counsel for me with all this. One, always be careful giving somebody rank. Make sure you're not doing it to make yourself feel good or make them feel good. Make sure they really earned it.
Yeah.
But what Timmy really did for us was every rank I give out, I expect them to be middle of the road, like competitive.
Yeah.
Like I don't believe in new purple belts. I believe in purple belts.
Yeah.
So when somebody gets a purple belt from me, they're ready to compete.
Yeah.
And they should be able to compete up level. They should be able to fight against brown belts right away.
Yeah.
Same thing with a blue belt. If I give somebody a blue belt, I want them to be severely competitive from the start. Not like, oh well, he's a new blue belt, give him a break. Like I don't do any of that. Like Tim was really good with emphasizing that, and that's always been like big on my thought process. Like I'm like, am I giving, like sometimes, and there's no hard fast rules. Sometimes I'll give somebody rank because I know they have more in them. They don't have that faith in themselves. I try to limit that though. One person, you get one belt each person, I think, will be like
because you feel as though that might push them to believe in themselves.
Yeah, but after that, you got to believe in yourself.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that for every rank.
Yeah.
Some people I'll promote early more often than I promote everybody late.
Yeah.
Like, it's not even that I'm stingy with rank. I just don't think about rank that much. I think about training.
Yeah, well, you're thinking about the pursuit of training in martial arts rather than, when you train, you shouldn't be showing up going, oh, I punched the card another day, so I know I'm closer to that belt. You just got to, train to let things happen.
Yeah. I've had people like, well, I trained this many hours. I'm like, oh, awesome.
Yeah.
I don't even like to think about how many hours I train.
It's not a punch card. Just to show up and do it.
I've definitely done multiple years in a row where I'm doing 40 hours. 40 hours of training a week.
Yeah.
Like that's what is it? That's 1,000 hours. More often than not, right? I'm doing like 1,000 hours a year. It's a lot of training. It's hard training.
Yeah.
But if you're not doing it good, who cares?
Exactly.
Like keeping track of that is just.
If you're not improving, if you're not adjusting things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been fun though.
Yeah.
It's been
22 years, a long ride of running an academy. So that's an accomplishment in its own.
I'm literally at. I want to say 25 years as a martial artist. Consistent martial artist. Definitely since I was 22. Non-stop, every day of the week. Not every day of the week. I wasn't full-time until when I opened my gym.
Yeah.
So 2000 is when I went 7 days a week. I trained, whether I needed to.
Was that in Cranston? Was that when you went full-time?
Yeah. I would do 80 hours a week, and 40 of them were overnights at a regular job.
Yeah.
And the other 40 were during the day, teaching and bouncing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Keep myself active. But
it's a long.
It's a different world now. So it's hard for kids to do that much, to do 40 hours.
Yeah.
You go to you have to go to 5 different gyms, but it's hard, but it's also easier because there's a lot more gyms.
Way more gyms. You don't have to travel like you used to. Again, to talking about Seong Tong, you would drive over an hour to just get a Muay Thai class in, or you would do that for Jiu-Jitsu at one time. Now, there's not a ton of us, but there's a lot of Jiu-Jitsu schools in New England now.
From my house to here, let me think. The way I drove, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's got to be another school between East Providence and here, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, I don't know all of them.
There's at least 4 schools.
Yeah, there's a couple I know, and then a couple
5 schools.
I don't. I'm sure there's some I don't even know.
I drove past at least 5 schools on the way here.
Yeah.
One of them was mine.
And then go back to when you started. There was nothing.
There was nothing.
There was
Don Banville.
Yeah.
And then there was the Boneyard, reality fighting,
Yep.
and then sit your tongue.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Because when I started looking into MMA, leaving traditional martial arts, it was you. Baril was like a whisper I heard about.
Yeah.
But it was you for MMA. It was you, the Boneyard, in reality.
Yep.
So I was at another place, but I wouldn't really call it an MMA place. And then I found you, and that's when we started training. And I think at that time you were a purple belt. I remember you had all kinds of people always coming in, guys that were on that, the UFC show, a guy that just fought, like, somebody would just pop in and you'd be like, oh, this is so-and-so.
Yeah. It's my ability to make friends places.
Yeah.
And, even people who, like Rory Singer was one of those guys.
Yeah.
And that, I made friends with him because I was getting gringoed, and him and Forrest Griffin jumped in and stuck up for me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I still ended up getting gringoed, but they tried.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, man, thanks. I appreciate that.
What do you mean gringoed?
I was in it was a 8-man absolute tournament.
Yeah.
And I had this big Brazilian cat. I was a purple or brown belt. I caught this dude in an Achilles lock, then heel hook, and his legs popping and snapping like cereal. He's yelling out.
But they didn't call it.
I look at the ref, I go, I'm gonna break his leg, ref.
Yeah.
And I started putting the heel hook on, he yelled again, the ref stopped the match.
Yeah.
He's like, why I never tapped? I'm like, this guy's yelling out.
Yeah.
And, Forrest and those guys stuck up for me. Forrest, this is right before Forrest had the Ultimate Fighter finale.
Yeah.
He goes, listen, I got something going on. If you grab my legs, I'm tapping, so just don't crank it. I'm like, all right, no worries.
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
there's no guarantee I'm going to get there. Forrest is a legit jiu-jitsu player. He's really good, but he's like, that's BS what happened to you. In the end, I think the decision was made that we would start 0 points. And I was 30 pounds smaller than this dude.
Yeah.
Start 0 points with a minute and a half left. And, I lost on points, but whatever. I could have said no and protested, but I don't think it was going to go my way. Arguing was never going to make that decision.
Yeah.
And then Forrest ended up beating him in the finals. That's all that matters. Yeah. I'm glad I count that as a secondary win. I made his leg
I've
very
never heard
sore.
that before, getting gringoed. That's funny.
Yeah, it happens, man.
Yeah, it definitely happens.
Yeah.
But your website, mattsantosbjj.com, just like
mattsantos.com. MAT, 1 T. Yeah.
All right. And all the information to get a hold of you and get into your academy is there?
Yeah, most of it.
Guys, he definitely doesn't hate all white belts, so come see Matt, definitely. But Matt, I want to say thank you so much for coming.
That's my pleasure, Danny.
Man, thank you for making the drive. Guys, without a doubt, come train with Matt, one of the New England pioneers in both MMA and Jiu-Jitsu. You can't go wrong. His school's right in Pawtucket. Quick drive. Guys, thank you so much.
Thank you.